You've been approved, you're ready to go. Your first class has been listed and your enrollments are coming in. But are you 100% ready and prepared for that first lesson on Outschool? I am so excited you're here today because we are going to go through everything you need to know to be able to absolutely nail that first Outschool class. In this video, I'm going to share with you my top 5 tips for your first Outschool class. We'll go through everything you need to know the day before, day of, and even after that lesson has finished. Be sure to stick around to the end where I'm going to talk about the number 1 biggest mistake new Outschool teachers make and how you can avoid it. Hi there, it is great to see you today. My name is Rachelle and I am a 6-figure online teacher from Australia. I tripled my 9-to-5 engineering salary by teaching online with Outschool, and I can show you how to do the same. Make sure you subscribe, hit that bell to get notified of every time I post a new video. If you haven't done it already, duck down to the description, grab my mini ebook and lesson plan for you to be able to create epic lesson plans without that overwhelm. Alright, let's dive straight into my top 5 tips for your first Outschool class. Tip number 1 is you're going to need to practice how to use Zoom. Now I know you're sitting there thinking it's 2021, I have spent more time in Zoom meetings in 2020 than I took showers, and you're probably not wrong, but there is a really big difference between being a participant in a Zoom meeting and actually being the host of the Zoom meeting. Although Zoom is a very straightforward program to use, if you've never been the host before, it can be a little overwhelming on how to do everything that you need to be able to do. This is why I highly recommend that you jump onto your free Zoom account, remembering Outschool does pay for Zoom, so you do not need to have the paid version. So jump onto that account a couple of days before your lesson and have a play around. See what different features there are, what you need to know to be able to be the host of a Zoom meeting. Some of the key features I used when I was first starting on Outschool are the mute and unmute buttons. It's going to be really important to know how to use those. That way all learners get a chance to speak. You're going to need to know how to let people in through the waiting room so your lesson can begin. And also you're going to have to look at how to screen share. I use screen sharing all the time for every single one of my classes. And it's really easy to do, but it's one of those things, make sure you practice so you know what you're doing. The other really big thing I use in Zoom is the annotate feature. This allows you to draw on the screen, write, circle, do all that kind of stuff. So knowing how to use that and change between different options is going to make your lesson that much smoother. One thing you are going to have to be aware of though is that everyone can annotate on the screen unless you close it out. So it's really important to look at how to stop annotation for participants, because if you've got a group of 6 5-year-olds all drawing on the screen at the same time, it can be a little frustrating if you don't know the easy step to actually be able to stop that from happening. Are you new to being the host on Zoom, and would you really like a full step-by-step video of exactly how I set up and run Zoom throughout my classes? Add a comment below and let me know if that is something you'd really like to see. Tip number 2 of my top 5 tips for your first Outschool class is going to be all about being prepared for the lesson. Now your first class on Outschool is going to be nerve-wracking. Although I've been on Outschool for a while, I still get really nervous when I'm teaching a new class that I haven't taught before. It is okay to be nervous for your first class on Outschool. It's exciting, it's new, and if you're like me, you probably don't have a background in teaching and this is all new to you. So this tip is really going to help combat those nerves and make that first lesson really fun and enjoyable. One of the things you can do to help you the night before to prepare for the next day is going to be writing a class role. Now, class roles are really easy to prepare, however, they are extremely important. I use class roles for every single lesson I do. Now, when I first started, all I did was I grabbed a piece of paper, I wrote down the learners' names of who is exactly enrolled in the class. This is really important because your learners are going to go into the waiting room and you have to let them into the Zoom meeting. By having the names written down, I can cross-check exactly who is meant to be here and who isn't. I can also then write down any little notes, anything I need to know for those learners for after the lesson. I used to then take all of that information and put it into a spreadsheet, making it a 2-step process to be able to track my pay. Now that I've been on Outschool for a little while, I have transitioned away from the paper and I actually use a custom-made template on my iPad. Now my template has my class role and it has sections for me to be able to track my pay. So everything is in one spot instead of in two different places. By having everything on my iPad instead of the piece of paper means I'm not losing stuff and it's so much better. Whatever system you choose to have is perfectly fine for when you're starting out. Like I said, I used a piece of paper and wrote all the names down. But if you are ready to move away from that piece of paper, or you just want to start straight away by using an electronic device, you can grab my class role and pay template down in the description below. Tip number 3 of my top 5 tips for your first Outschool class is another thing that is really going to help with any nerves that you might have before that first lesson, and that's going to be writing a script. Now it may sound funny, but I do write down exactly what I'm going to say for every lesson before I teach them. When I was first starting out in lesson planning, this was a really important part for me. By writing a script, it means that you can take breaks during your lesson where you can ask questions, have conversations. I personally love having open discussions in my classes with my learners and between the learners themselves, but I'm also really prone to getting off track, and then when I pull everything back in, I can't find where I'm at. But having that script there means that I'm really able to keep track of where I'm at. Now you do not need to write a full script, but at least having some notes written down, some main points and questions that you really want to cover with your learners is going to make those nerves seem like absolutely nothing. When you step into that class, you've got it there and you are ready to go. Remember, you are teaching on Zoom, so the learners can't see anything you don't let them see. So when you start screen sharing PowerPoints, presentations, Google Slides, whatever it is you're using for that lesson, the learners are only going to see that. It does mean you can pull that script up on your screen and the learners can't see it. They're just going to be able to see the items that you've screen shared with them. Tip number 4 of my top 5 tips for your first Outschool class is where you're going to want to plan the start and the end of your lesson. Now, the beginning of your lesson is your introduction. It is the first thing your learners are going to see. It's that welcome experience for them. And then the last thing your learners are going to see is your outro. It's what you're going to do at the end. So making both of these memorable is a really great thing to help increase those re-enrollments. How you start the class is really going to set the tone for the rest of your lesson. There are a few things you're going to need to do at the beginning of your lesson, and the 2 biggest ones are going to be that roll, checking that the right students are here. You're going to want to make sure that you can see and hear everybody. I like to check audio and cameras really on in the lesson because then I can deal with any tech issues at the start. I actually start all my classes with a welcome message. So I go, hey everyone, it's great to see you all today. Before we get started, I am going to go through the class, check who we've got here, make sure I can hear and see everyone. So as I call your name, unmute, say a big hi, it lets me know your audio is working. And if your camera is turned off, it does need to be on for the start of the Outschool class. This is Outschool's policy for safety so that I can see all of our learners in our lesson today. I've done 2 really important things there. I've notified everyone that we're checking audio and why, and that they need to have their camera on. This is an Outschool policy for safety and it's something really important to be checking with your learners at the start. Now I know this might sound like a no-brainer, but you're going to need to introduce yourself. And as someone who likes to talk and gets sidetracked, but also very nervous when I'm doing something new, I forgot to introduce myself so many times. And I get halfway through the lesson and a student would be like, I'm sorry, miss, what's your name? Or something. Or I'd get right to the end and be like, I didn't tell them my name again. So the way I actually introduce myself and do I like to call a semi-icebreaker, is I go, welcome everyone, it is great to see you all today. We're going to have some new faces and familiar faces in our class today. To our familiar faces, it is great to see you again. And to our new faces, welcome. My name is Rachelle and I'm from Queensland in Australia. Because I'm in Australia, it is 8 o'clock in the morning on a Friday for me. It might be a different time or day depending where you are in the world. I find it a really nice way to be able to start the class off nice and light and friendly. Just like the way you start the class is important, the way you end it is really important as well. This is the last thing your students are going to see before they leave. Make sure you do a wrap up, ask if anyone has any questions, and it's a great time while they're all still engaged to slide in a bit of advertisement. Now you can say something like, I hope you enjoyed the lesson. I have lots of other classes that you might enjoy, and then give 1 or 2 names. Now I only give 1 or 2 because the learners already know that the lesson's ending, they're ready to leave, and you want to kind of put them in really quickly so that they listen before they tune out. Do you have a really cool icebreaker that you like to use in your lessons or an awesome way to end them? Add it to the comments below. I find it really cool to see all the different ways that teachers like to engage their students. Tip number 5 for my top 5 tips for your first Outschool class is going to be something you're going to do at the end of the lesson. So you've done that class roll, your icebreaker's on point, you have nailed the outro, your kids had an awesome time. The important thing to now look at is getting those re-enrollments. You want those kids to come back. What you're going to do next is you're going to add a bit of advertisement into the classroom. Now, when I say a bit, I mean like this much. Do not overdo it. What a really cool thing to do is go to that classroom on Outschool, add a message in and just say, hey guys, awesome lesson today. I hope you had fun. If you've got any more questions, send them through. I'd love to be able to help you out if you need me at any time. And then just put in 2, maybe 3 direct links to another lesson that would work for those learners. Now it's really important to put the direct links because the parents aren't going to go searching for them. You want them to be able to click directly from the classroom into it. If you're not already, follow me on Instagram for behind the scenes and daily tips and tricks for your Outschool classes. I have mentioned that I am an Outschool parent as well, so although I am a teacher on Outschool, my son takes a lot of Outschool classes as well, which is great because it gives me a perspective of both sides of the platform, so I really see what those learners are seeing as well as what I'm seeing as a teacher. Now there is one really big mistake that a lot of teachers do when they're starting out on Outschool, and that is asking for reviews. I understand that reviews are important and they do genuinely help increase those enrollments when you've got a couple of reviews under your belt. Outschool will message the parents at least 3 times about leaving a review for the class. Those re-enrollments are more important than a review. So remembering to advertise in the classroom for those re-enrollments, but do not advertise that you're specifically looking for reviews. If you have any questions about my top 5 tips for your first Outschool class or anything in particular, want to know my favorite animal, add it into the comments. I am more than happy to help you at any time. Be sure to subscribe to get notified of my next video, which is a big one. It is going to be how I went from $0 to $50,000 in 20 weeks on Outschool with no teaching experience. If you found this video helpful, give it a like and I'll see you Monday.